You want to slide in on this side. Outside. Did you guys have enough chairs? All right, Jacob, good to see you.
Katie, where are you sitting?
That's why I make the
Okay.
Oh, he's gonna.
Did you need some more chairs? You good? Okay.
Just want to make
Okay.
sure.
Can I start?
I think so. It looks like everybody's pretty much seated.
Wow. Yeah.
Got a nice crowd.
I'll start.
Yeah, that sounds
Okay.
good.
Good morning and welcome. My name, according, for Marie and Wayne and the family, my name is Jordan. I very familiar with them for the past 40 years plus. Now, to those of you who don't know me, my name is still Jordan. I would like you to know that I've spent the last 40 some years as a hospice chaplain and bereavement counselor. And there's one thing that if I could sum up, all those years and experiences, it comes down to one simple phrase: death ends a life, but never a relationship. Death ends a life, but never a relationship. Marie lived and loved and treasured every relationship that entered her life. And that is why we can dwell upon the relationship and call this a celebration of her life and a celebration of our life because of our relationship with Marie. She made a difference in our life. And we're going to unravel this mystery throughout this celebration. The family put together the whole service, a very personal one that will kind of evolve this relationship. The music even has an attachment to Marie. You know, she loved nature and birds and so forth. And the family chose the first song on Eagle's Wings. And for every song, it's a prayer. For every song, listen to the words. This is a reading from the book of Proverbs. When one finds a worthy woman, her value is far beyond pearls. Her family, entrusting their heart to her, has an unfailing prize. She brings them good all the days of their life. She puts her hands to work, working with skillful, dedicated hands. She reaches out her hands to her children, her arms to the needy. Let us remember this: charm is deceptive and beauty is fleeting, but the woman who has love is to be praised. So give her now the reward for her labors, and let her life and her love praise you for all eternity.
This is a reading from the letter of Paul to Timothy. I am already being spent through my suffering, and the time has now come for my departure. I have fought the good fight. I have finished the race. I have kept the faith. Now there is in store for me a new life, which God has promised to me, God's faithful servant. And God will give me this reward, not only me, but to everyone who journeys in faith. And now we invite family to do some sharing. So I'm going to invite Anne up.
Thank you all for being here. To those that don't know me, I'm Anne, one of Marie's daughters, and I work for the legislature, which most of you probably already know because Mom would take every chance she had to brag about her kids or grandkids. So much to all of our embarrassment. So this last week, I was in a legislator's office, and on the wall was a big sign that said something like, "Listen so others will want to talk, and talk so others will want to listen." So I'm going to try my best to do that right now. But this quote made me think of my mom because she was so good at both listening and talking. In fact, my sisters and I have fond memories of my mom's 20-foot phone cord stretching from the kitchen to the dining room for hours on end. So she was a great listener and a great talker. She would listen thoroughly, make you feel heard. In fact, when I asked my son Henry if he wanted to share something about Grandma, he wrote, "Grandma could always make you feel heard. She was a lifelong student, uncompromising in her search for meaning." So this made, it made her good at offering advice in a non-authoritarian, non-judgmental, and caring way. She accepted those in her life unconditionally. I think Mom came by this naturally to some extent, but I also think it grew on her quest to become a better human and find meaning, as Henry mentioned. For those of you who don't know, growing up, it felt like if there was another religion out there to explore, Mom would find it. In her journey, Mom embraced what I feel are the best aspects of religion, including compassion, loving kindness, and a natural interconnectedness, which made her the person we could all talk to. It made her comfortable being her truest self. A Buddhist monk and teacher, Thich Nhat Hanh, said, "You must love in a way that the person you love feels free." Mom always loved us this way. And it's time for us to love her this way too, as she is here in our hearts, but also free.
Now I invite Tessa to come and share.
Whew. That sure is a lot of people out there, which just speaks volumes about our mother. And as Anne said, growing up, Mom always encouraged us to live our fullest and be creative. And I really didn't know what I was going to say once I got up here on family trips. You know, we did roving reporters and things like that. And as an adult, Mom encouraged things. And I then became, you know, Busty Rhodes reporting live. And whenever I'd come home from a trip, Mom would always be, oh my gosh, that was such a good one. Oh, let's watch it again. Let's watch it again. So now every time I do that, I'm going to think of her. But there are so many things that we take for granted in life, not intentionally, but because they become so routine and automatic. There was a time in my life that I was given the advice to designate someone to grab me, pull me aside, and say, stop, look around and see what is happening right now in this moment. I feel as though I'm looking through my mother's eyes and I'm overcome with so much love and happiness because of all the wonderful people here with so many memories and experiences and connections that time and distance can't break. I remember my mom at her 70th birthday party saying, this is my funeral. You know, people laughing, dancing, and being together. You know, if you were walking by, she'd grab you on the dance floor, you know, just drag Dad out more than a few times, I'm sure. And that's what I think my mother would want from us today, to be together, to share stories, to laugh and see that we aren't alone and are all connected, whether it's physically or spiritually. She will always be with us. And I have struggled with what to say today, but I keep having this one word that keeps coming to me. So I can only assume that it's something Mom would want me to say. And that word is create. Write, draw, sing, sculpt, dance. Whatever form you choose, just do it. And don't think about how good or bad you think it might be. Wild, crazy, even better. Create, express yourself, become. Stop each other and take in the moments. We could go on for days with all the wonderful things and stories. She was a wonderful person, and you wrapped it up great. And that's all I can think of to say for now. Thank you.
Now, Katie, Marie's granddaughter, is going to share.
Oh, you weren't lying. There's a lot of people. Hi, everyone, and thank you for coming out today. I'm sorry in advance. I'm Katie, and I'm Marie's oldest grandchild. I was blessed to be so extremely close with my grandma Tonnon throughout my life. When I was little, she babysat me every day while my parents were at work. I was lucky enough to see her every day when I was young, and I got to stay with her whenever my parents went out of town, and we even got to live with her for a year when they were building our new house. I didn't know it then, but I truly was one of the luckiest little girls in the world because I got to have my grandma's undivided attention so often. If you look back at any pictures of me from my childhood, there's a pretty good chance that I'm wearing an outfit that Grandma made for me. We all know she was such an amazing artist, and she loved to make matching outfits for us. One of my favorite pictures ever of me is sitting in a little bench in her garden with this adorable little red and yellow sunflower outfit that she made for me. I'll never forget one of the many times that Grandma was watching me and my siblings, and we just about scared her to death. Mike and I were making a fort with some blankets on their living room table while Grandma was getting herself ready for the day. Our youngest brother, Nick, just kept trying to get into our fort, but we insisted that he could not come in. Nick got mad and climbed up on our blanket-covered table to try and ruin our fort, but we didn't appreciate that very much, so Mike and I pulled the blanket out from under him. Nick fell off the table and landed right on a fire truck toy and cut his head open. We were little, so we knew we had to tell Grandma what happened, so we ran to her room yelling, "Grandma, we killed our little brother!" I can tell you, I've never seen Grandma run so fast in her life. Thankfully, she saw that Nick simply had cut his head and needed a few stitches, but she was very grateful that he wasn't dead like we thought he was. My Grandma Tonnon was truly one of a kind, and I don't think anyone will be able to top some of the stories that she told all of us about her life. When we would go up to the cottage, we always got to fight over who got to sleep between Grandma and Grandpa, because when we did, Grandma stayed up late with us and told us stories about her childhood. She told us stories about when her sisters were little, or when she owned her apartment buildings. There was one time when she went to one of her apartments and she had to get the guy to pay rent. She knocked and knocked and the person didn't come to the door. She's walking away. This really large man comes out of the apartment, sees my little grandma standing there, and bolts. Grandma is not a quitter, so she obviously ran right after him. Please just take a moment to imagine Grandma running after basically a Packer player here. Needless to say, she did not catch up to him, but she sure gave the guy a run for his money. I was lucky to spend 25 wonderful years on this earth with my grandma. When I got engaged to Brandon, we had to FaceTime her and tell her right away. We got engaged on St. Patrick's Day, so she was down in Fort Myers for the winter. We got her on FaceTime just long enough to show her my ring and tell her the story before she cut me off and said, "Okay, I love you guys. Congrats. But now I got to get back to my party or my friends will wonder where the fun has gone." She sure was the life of the party, and we loved going to visit her every winter that we could. Shortly after I got engaged, we found out that her cancer was back, and we didn't know how long she would make it. I knew right then that we were going to do everything in our power to make sure that she was at our wedding, because I couldn't imagine a world where she didn't get to see me get married. We planned a beautiful backyard ceremony where the only people there were my photographer, Kathy and Jordan, who performed the ceremony, and my grandma and grandpa Tonnon. It was such a special moment, and I will cherish it for my entire life. When we got pregnant with our son, we didn't know if she was going to make it to that. So every day that I could during my pregnancy, I was out at her house so that she could watch and feel the baby grow. She fought so hard to be there when our son Lane was born, and I can't explain how amazing it was to see her hold Lane. I spent so many days and nights out at her house over this past year with Lane so that she could soak up every single second of being a great grandmother. From the moment Lane was born, he couldn't get enough of Grandma Tonnon's stories and songs. There were many times where I brought Lane to sit with her, and she told us how much she loved us and how special we both were to her. This past week, actually, I had a dream, and my grandma came to me, and I thought it would be perfect to share here today. In the dream, I was up at the cottage, up in Anago, and I came down the road to go to the beach. There were no trees, which is very weird because normally there's a ton of trees there. And all I could see was a clear path down to the water, and my grandma was sitting there on one of her yellow chairs in the sand. I screamed, "Oh my God, Grandma!" And I ran to her and gave her a hug. I said, "How are you here with me?" She said to me, "Once I was done suffering, I went to heaven for a while and hung out there. And then I decided I wanted to come back and have one more day at the cottage with you. So here I am." And I think that just shows how amazing she was. I will forever be grateful that I got the honor to be Marie's first grandchild and bless her with her first of many great grandchildren. I made sure before she passed that she knew our first baby girl would be named in her honor. As much as it breaks my heart that she's gone, she lives on her 4 beautiful daughters, her 8 wonderful grandkids, and again, one of many great grandchildren. She's looking down at us and watching out for all of us at all times. Grandma, I want to thank you for being such an amazing grandma, teacher, friend, and second mother to me. I love you.
Now I'd like to share from Mary, Marie's daughter. And this is what Mary shares. I never realized how lucky we were that Mom was such a prolific writer and artist until I sat down with her writings and artworks this past week. Reading her words was like having her sit next to me. I saw her humor, intelligence, compassion, wit, and wisdom. I'm so thankful that she left this huge piece of herself here to help us when we need it most. This treasure will keep her with us forever. And this is from Mary's daughter, Isabella. I don't know where you landed. Oh, there she is. Okay. This is a letter she wrote. Dear Grandma, in your love of life, I know you didn't want to miss a second of the rest of ours. I don't think you will, because you are in every inch of the cottage, and when the sun sets, set fire to the lake. You are here in every stroke of the paintbrush when I should be asleep. I can sense you in the dark as I scribble every last sentence. You are here in our joy and sorrow, because one only needs to read a line of your poetry to feel how deeply you lived. Most importantly, you are in every shared moment between our family. Though I can't guess where your soul wanders now, part of your vibrant personality will never extinguish, because your love for life, laughter, and thought flares in each of us. Your kindness and ageless wisdom only spread. Your presence is multiplied and bound to all the lives you have touched. As a great artist and poet, you are an inspiration to all of us. Love, Isabella. And now, Elizabeth will share.
Hi, my name is Elizabeth Lewis. I knew Marie for 13 years. I first met her when she was going through her first cancer and chemo treatments in 2008. I was a teacher at the School of the Arts at Rhinelander, and she was one of my students. And we, as she said later, became soulmates. We had a soul connection from the very beginning. And when she recovered the first time, she invited me to the Tonnon home to do a workshop for the 4 daughters. It was a mandala workshop, which is an art form where you have a circle and you fill it in. And then I became part of the family, which was like, and I was so happy to do it because I could see that Marie was the anchor, but through her daughter, she was kind of planting a lot of anchors in the world that would do beautiful and wonderful things. And so over the years, Marie and I have had a lot of great conversations. Nothing was ever off the table with her, which anybody who knows her knows that. But we even found ways to, in the last couple of years, frame things like politics in a spiritual way. So she was always a lot of fun to talk to. I saw her several times over the last couple months. And 2 weeks before she died, we had this conversation about death. And so I'm going to do a reading from the Praises of God by St. Francis of Assisi. St. Francis, Marie always said she was a big fan of St. Francis. Anybody who knows her knows that's true. She loved his poetry and his heart, as she would say. I want to share this particular poem because it's very much in keeping with that conversation we had a few weeks before she died. At that time, Marie asked me what I thought God was like and what the other side would be like when she got there, the world beyond this one where she would be traveling to. And so I shared with her that my idea is that we see God as we are. And so the God awaiting her was a lover of beauty, ever creative, kind, loving, and compassionate. And the world beyond this one, which she would be traveling to, was going to be a world of beauty and love, compassion, and kindness as well. And Marie and I were holding hands at the time, and she squeezed my hand and she said, "Yeah, that sounds like truth to me." And so I was so grateful to be there to hear her say that. So this is the part that I'm going to share with you, which is, again, very much in keeping with that conversation. The praises of God. You are good, all good, the highest good, Lord God, living and true. You are love, charity, you are wisdom, you are humility, you are patience. You are beauty, you are meekness, you are security, you are inner peace, you are joy. You are our hope and joy. You are justice. You are moderation. You are all our riches. You are beauty. You are meekness. You are the protector. You are the guardian and defender. You are strength. You are refreshment. You are our hope. You are our faith. You are our charity. You are all of our sweetness. You are our eternal life, great and wonderful Lord, God Almighty, merciful Savior. I'd like to share too that not long before Marie died, I too had a dream about her. She came to me in a dream, and I kind of felt like she was coming to me like she was half in one world and half in another world. And she was wearing a wedding dress, and she looked like she did in her when she was very young. And where the cancer had been was a big white flower, silver and white flower. And I thought, she's healed through this process. And so I love you all, and I'm so glad to be here today.
And I'm Kathy. Marie and I have been friends for many years. We started out as friends and walking buddies, and we ended up as soul sisters. So, and it was just so wonderful to be able to, these last days, weeks of Marie's life, I got to spend time with her. And I told her, Marie, I'm writing a poem for you. And she said, I want to hear it. And that put a little pressure on me to get it done. But I did, and I read it to her. So she got to hear it. And it's titled Marie. A being of spirit, finding fairies in gardens, faces in paintings. A muse, streaming memories and dreams, flowing works, images, colors, and lines for us to hold and savor. We taste the words, feel the rhythm, breathe the vision, soul to soul, connecting us like a silver thread reaching to eternity. And her art is here, and there are pieces that you can take with you so that you can have a piece of that connection of who she was so much to all of us. We're going to hear the song Spirit in the Sky. Marie wanted this to be played today. She loved this song. The words spoke to her, and I think she liked the beat of it a lot too. So, Spirit in the Sky.
Heather,
Yes.
may the spirit in the sky bring you down here to reality and share your thoughts.
Okay.
I just wanted to thank everyone on behalf of our family for coming here today, especially with such terrible weather. Thank you so much. Thank you for so much support and love over the past couple of years. I mean, we've just been so blessed with so many friends and family members who have bent over backwards for our family, and it means the world. We'd love for everybody to come to Thornberry Creek for lunch. We've got a lot of chicken. So anyone who is hungry, please come over. And that means anyone and everyone. So if you need directions on how to get to Thornberry Creek, we can set you up. Okay. Thank you, and drive safely. Yes. Okay, there's directions to Thornberry on the front table. Thank you, Tessa. And Matt. Matt has been wonderful at Melcor Funeral Home. He has just been outstanding, and he has been so fabulous to work with. He helped us get everything with Mom's artwork in here, and our music and the slideshow, everything. It's just, he's been wonderful. Also, Unity Hospice was just so wonderful for our family. I have a humongous list that I wrote out. I'm not going to read it. I'm zooming out and I'm just saying thank you to everyone. Thank you.
You know, before I have a closing reflection, there is something that I feel that must be said. When Kathy would visit Marie quite often, I would go out to eat with Wayne. And there are no words, and maybe some of you have experienced that, to watch a loved one die and feel so helpless and just wait and wait and feel that pain inside. And when we want you to know that we didn't forget you here, we know it's been a very difficult journey. And we will be there for you because we made a promise to Marie. Now, you and I, you know, we're on a very strict cardiac diet. And Marie was always wondering why we always had bacon and eggs. And I told her that we will continue to do so. And that's just the way it is. You know, at this time of the year, I would be going to many funeral homes and facilities and doing holiday memorial services for the families of hospice patients, you know. And I remember last year I walked into this facility and there was just a beautiful picture board, you know, of the loved ones, you know, that died throughout that year. But what was unique with this pictured board, in the middle was a bullet point, like a poster, with these words: as long as we live, they too shall live, for they have become a part of our lives. And I love that quote. As long as we live, they too shall live, for they have become a part of our lives. Now, I realize that we are approaching the Christmas season. And whenever you lose a loved one around this time of the year, it also complicates, you might say, some of the grieving. It's just natural. What we have to do is that in our culture, you know, Christmas is usually a time for giving. And that's why all these ads from September, go shopping, go shopping. You got to buy this, you got to buy that, you got to get this. And, you know, and it's a lot of pressure. But maybe this year, I will ask the family that as you gather for Christmas, don't put the emphasis on giving, but on receiving. And be open about receiving the many memories that you have of Marie from your own perspective, your own experiences, and that will be your treasure. And perhaps that will be your most important Christmas present. You don't always have to focus on giving. We have a hard time as human beings to receive, but that is really the stepping stone that helps us get through the grieving process. I like to close with this prayer, poem, reflection, but it touches where we're at. It's called The Blessings of Memory. Yes, it is hard to speak of oneness when our life is no longer complete. When those who once brought wholeness to our life have gone, and nothing but memory can fill the emptiness their passing leaves behind. But memory can tell us what we were in company with those we loved. Oh, it cannot help us find what each of us alone must now become. And yet, no one is ever really alone. Those who live no more echo still within our thoughts and in our words. And what they did is part of what we have become. And so we honor our loved one best when we live out our lives most fully, even in the shadows of our loss. And like Marie, one day others can say they lived, they loved, they had relationships that were a treasure.
And we close today with a song, an Irish blessing. May the road rise to meet you. It's our sending on of Marie, but it's also and the blessing her for the blessing that she has been in our lives. But it's also sending each of you forth with a blessing.
And until we meet again.
Ladies and gentlemen, this does conclude our service. I do very much appreciate everyone coming out today. And please do join the family at Thornberry Creek. Again, I do have those directions. They're right by the door. If you have any further questions, just come and find me. Happy to help. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Yeah.